What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a long overdue version of Coffee with a Trainer Wellness Edition. My name is Michael Hartman, and I'm your host. I am joined today with the beautiful Lauren Blackford. I'm going to give you a little rundown about her, and we'll let her introduce herself as well. Lauren is a certified integrative nutritional health coach. She's a certified crystal healer. She is a certified meditation teacher, and she's also a registered yoga teacher and the owner of Yozenity, holistic wellness coach and yoga teacher for them there. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, first, Michael, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. A little bit about me, as you said, I'm a holistic wellness coach and a yoga instructor and a crystal healer. And so I take a very obviously holistic approach to wellness. So what I do is I help clients really identify small shifts that they can make in their life to make big improvements so that they can live life very vibrantly. I'm very into energy and vibration and frequency, as you can tell by the crystal healing and the yoga. I also get into sound healing. So I take a very multi-dimensional approach to wellness, as well as teaching yoga at various events. As you know, you've taken my class at Growth Now Movement, virtual, and I teach at yoga retreats and things of that nature. So that's a little bit about me.
That's perfect. Yeah, I wanted to have Lauren on because as she said, I was at the Growth Now Movement and she was doing a yoga lesson there, and I really had a good time with it. Yoga was something that helped me get through the COVID pandemic. It was something that in the beginning I was doing daily pretty much, along with meditation and gratitude practices, just to try and say, hey, you're okay, Mike. Your business is going to be okay. Things are going to be okay, because it was a very stressful time. So it was nice to kind of meet her from afar and now actually have this opportunity to have a conversation with her. This can go a lot of ways with this podcast today. There's going to be a lot of different directions we're going to go. I'm also heavily into crystals and meditation. So we're going to just be covering some questions, learning more about Lauren, and learning more about what we believe, how yoga and meditation and wellness can collaborate with fitness and nutrition and all of those other good things to help you guys who are listening improve your life and improve everything from the ground up with you. So I'm going to start just right down the line. We're going to go. So how did you get started in yoga, and how did you get started in this industry?
So I got started in yoga. It's kind of funny. I grew up as a dancer from the age of 3 to 21. I was dancing on a stage. And once I graduated from college and came home, I really couldn't find dance classes for my age group at my skill level, unless I wanted to travel into Philadelphia and pay a lot of money. So I was trying to find something where I could have creative self-expression in addition to movement. And I stumbled across a yoga class. It was at a community college. I think it was Delaware County Community College. And from that first class, I was hooked. And then I just kept taking classes. When I lived in Philadelphia, I took warrior yoga, so very intense, but I started with hatha yoga. So I experienced all the different levels of yoga. And from that moment, that was just it for me. And it became more of, more than a yoga practice, just a physical practice. It became, something that I utilized to heal me physically as well as emotionally. And now it's my favorite thing that I do. And in terms of the actual wellness, becoming a certified health coach, which is what my certification is, was something that was on my bucket list because I have a lot of family history of there's blood pressure, there's Alzheimer's disease, there's a whole host of things. And I needed to figure out how to heal my body so that I didn't express those genetic traits. And so it was very important for me to go through this program and go through the training and learn about how to properly take care of myself, because you don't really get taught how to take care of yourself in our society. I mean, I grew up, my household was very much standard American diet, and we did sports and dance for, the discipline, not necessarily the health benefits and the fun of it, of course. So that's what got me into the wellness industry is learning how to heal myself and helping others do the same.
That's beautiful. And I think a lot of people kind of get confused as to what is the purpose for yoga. A lot of people think it's just stretching. You're just trying to improve your flexibility, but it's so much more than that. There's detoxing properties, there's properties of healing yourself from injury, ailment, emotional stress, trauma, all of those things that people just don't think about. So if you're just thinking about yoga as a exercise modality, I think people really need to open their eyes. And I think that's something that we're really going to dive deeper into. So you had told me previously that yoga actually helped you with some injuries, healing from some personal relationship stress and things like that. Why don't you dive into a little bit more about that so people can kind of understand that if they're dealing with some injuries or dealing with some relationship issues, like how potentially you could help them, or yoga in their neck of the woods could actually help them as well.
Sure. So as I mentioned, I was a dancer, and in college, my dance teacher was trying to get me to do something that my body just couldn't do, and I ended up slamming the top of my right knee on a hardwood floor. And being 20 and invincible, I didn't really get it checked out. I didn't want to be told I couldn't continue to dance. You know, I did that typical thing where I just sort of dealt with it. And for years, that knee was, I couldn't keep it bent for long periods of time. It would start to ache. It became my weather vane. I always knew when a storm was coming. And once I started practicing yoga consistently, I mean, I didn't notice it for a while, but all of a sudden I was like, oh, my knee doesn't hurt anymore. And I realized that it was the yoga that actually healed that injury. And now I have no problems with it. I forget that I even had that injury, whereas for years it really affected my body. And now it's great. And it's the strengthening that yoga does for the body. You know, it's not just stretching, it's also strengthening, you know, the muscles and the ligaments and everything. It really can help heal a lot of injuries. I've heard of so many people who have healed themselves, that, you know, they broke their back and they healed themselves through yoga or other things like that. And then on an emotional level, I got divorced 7 years ago. And in the 3 years leading up to that, I really wasn't on the yoga mat at all because my life was extremely chaotic. It was a very toxic relationship. And once I picked up my babies and walked out, you know, I was then a solo parent, 100%, working full time and navigating this new, you know, this divorce. And so I took back, you know, the yoga mat. I took to the mat and I returned to myself. It was like, I was like taking back control of my life. I'm like, I have to do this. And as I began to practice yoga again during this divorce, I noticed that it was helping me on a deep emotional level. And something that I talk about a lot is we actually hold a lot of trauma and pain in our bodies, different parts of our bodies. A lot of times we hold it in the hips, me especially. And so there were times where I was in pigeon pose, which is a hip opener, and I would just feel an emotional release and just start crying. And when the first happened, I was like, what is going on? And now crying on the yoga mat is pretty much my favorite form of therapy. And I found that just the practice of yoga and the concentration and the dedication and the going inward really helped surface the emotions that I needed to work through in order to heal from these traumas that, you know, we all experience. And so I think for somebody who's going through a difficult time, yoga can be a wonderful addition to their healing, because I know it was for me, and it continues to be to this day. I mean, my mom passed away in August, and so I'm going through the grief process right now, and returning to doing a lot of hip openers and crying on the yoga mat has really helped me get through that.
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's just a couple points from my own personal experience. I had an L3, L4 back injury from playing football back when I was in high school, which caused me to gain a whole bunch of weight because of my injury. And then I had to try and lose it. And then I tried building muscle. I did the wrong things. I overcompensated. So I went from fat to super skinny to fat again. And then I finally just realized, okay, I need to build muscle. I need to do this, that, the other thing. But for me, from the physical standpoint of yoga, what I realized the best thing was, and I'm not actively practicing. I said to Lauren before we started that when COVID started, I was doing it pretty much all the time. And I actually might have said it in the very beginning of our talk here. But the biggest thing I noticed was how weak my wrists were.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a guy that benches 315 pounds, for 5-6 reps. And I'm holding downward dog, and I'm like, oh my God, please don't make me do chaturanga into upward dog one more time, because my wrist feels like it's going to break off. And it was one of those things where it's like, it's a mindset, realizing that building your body with your own body weight is getting in there on those connective tissues, getting in there with the ligaments, the tendons, the joints, and just getting whole with your body. As you said, with your knee injury, healing that through yoga. You would never go to a doctor and have them say, you're going to heal it through yoga. You're going to heal it through personal training. They're going to be like, oh, you need pain pills. You need to elevate it, rest ice. And yes, those are good things in the beginning. But after that, it's like, how are we going to get back to square one? How are we going to get back to zero, as I said? Because normally you're coming out of physical therapy, you're at like a -5 or a -6. You're not what you were before the injury. So it's people like you and I that need to get people back to that next level and get them back in there. So that's from the physical standpoint. There's just a lot to unpack. We can just talk about some of the stuff you said forever.
Right.
But I dealt with a lot of like death related trauma in a 5-year period, where I had lost grandparents, aunts, a cousin, a guy that played in my band, and a couple of my clients. And that was a 5-year period where you kind of just got numb, and you thought that, death was normal, and death should never feel normal. But it got to the point where I was dealing with so much of that you were like, okay, where do I go from here? And that's kind of where my crystal journey and meditation journey, Reiki, massage therapy, all of that stuff I started using as outlets. And I've had that experience where you said about the hip openers and kind of crying on the mat. Not necessarily like a physical cry, but like more of a internal release, where my massage therapist will be working on me and I'll just like feel like a calm come over me, and I'll feel like I'm at peace all of a sudden, where I go in there and I'm a little bound up and I'm like stressed out. And I have the same thing with like you with family. I have high cholesterol in my family, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, all that good stuff. And it's like just the ability to find things that allow me to calm is huge for me. And all this stuff is things that we've never talked about on this show. So is there any other examples of things that you can really touch on, and how you get yourself? So you said you got back to the mat. So when you got back to the mat, was it an immediate thing? Like, hey, I'm right back in, I'm going all in? Or was it like a gradual? Did you have to do anything to prepare yourself? I'm just kind of curious how you got back to that, to allow yourself to heal that way.
Well, I was always somebody that took classes at home, like on DVDs and whatnot. And so for me, getting back to the mat, I was self-sequencing is what I call it. So I was just getting on the mat and playing around. So it wasn't like I had to prepare for this class that was going to be difficult. It was just more getting, my asana on the mat and doing the work. And that sort of helped me. I would just explore different poses and see how I felt. And at that time, I was also teaching my kids yoga because they were 3 and 1. And so they were little yogis. And so that would be our Saturday morning, routine. And that sort of helped me get through being that solo parent. But in terms of preparing, no, it's just, I think people get really bound up in, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible, or I can't for whatever reason. And the thing is that anybody can do yoga and there's no preparation needed. It's good for all levels, and it's what gets you to be flexible and healed. There are no prerequisites. And so, I think if anybody's interested in starting yoga, but they're have a little bit of trepidation, honestly, it's for everybody. Yoga is for everybody, as they say. So, there's no preparation needed. It's just, again, get your asana on the mat.
Yeah, I love that. I went over to, believe it was Shri Yoga over by Vanity Fair, a few times with my one client. I don't think they're even open anymore. But Pam over there, She's no longer with us, but she was really good at adapting the practice to me being a football player with really, really loose muscles in certain places and a very, very bound up lower back and upper back due to muscle mass, due to injuries, um, all those things. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you go into a class and the yoga practitioner or the personal trainer or whatever, like we can go into any different type of practitioner practice here, but they make you feel like you can't do it, you're with the wrong person. You
Yeah.
want that person that's going to come up and say, hey, here's your yoga block, here's your mat, try this, alter the movement, and then they make you a believer that you can do it. Like you don't want somebody right away. It would be like me saying somebody's 400 pounds, bring them into the gym and tell them to do 50 pull-ups. Like that's not a good idea. They're going
Right.
to pull and pull and pull, and they're not going to get their chin above that bar. So set people up for success and not failure. And I think that's where you really find like a good teacher that can do that for you. And I know obviously, Lauren, that would be you. Um, so we were talking a little bit previously about different coaches and how you think it's really important to work with different coaches for more of a whole approach. So I'm just kind of curious, what's your beliefs with that, and how do you think that should work?
So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of people employing different coaches and teachers and mentors and healers, to reach their goals. We are, by definition, humans are social animals, which means if you look up the definition, we need assistance from other humans in order to survive. Okay, that is our basic need. And so to think, we have this culture of do it yourself, isolate, do it on your own, and that just goes against our very nature. We need each other to survive and to thrive. And so my philosophy is when you have a situation, like let's say you want to get healthy or lose weight, or you need to go through some emotional healing and mental health journey, get a team. Like find your team of people. Like I have a team right now that's helping me through some business stuff and my grief, and I call them my soul team. So that includes like an embodiment business coach, a shaman. I have a couple of Reiki healers, massage therapists. Like they're my soul team, and they're helping me get to where I need to go. And I think that, there's no shame in asking for help. If you're having trouble because you're like, hey, I'm eating right and I'm exercising and I'm not reaching my goals, then reach out to somebody because they may give you a different perspective. They may point you in the right direction. You don't have to do everything on your own. And I think it's very important for people to remain coachable, because when you think you've got it all under control, you probably don't. And, I'm somebody that is a fan of continuous learning. I'm always looking into the next course, reading the next book, trying to learn the next thing. And so I try to remain coachable. One of my Reiki healers is the one who told me that I should start doing more yin yoga, which is holding poses for like 3 to 5 minutes, I'm usually a vinyasa flow girl. And she said that was going to help me with my grief and my healing. And she's not a yoga teacher. I am, but I'm allowing somebody to tell me what kind of yoga that I should do for my healing because I'm coachable. And I think that's super important. And it's something that a lot of people tend to shut down. They're like, well, no, I'm the expert in this. I know what I'm doing. But opening yourself up to other people's perspectives and their help, I think is essential for us to thrive, honestly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The soul team, I like that. I have a team surrounding me too. I have my massage therapist. I've worked with some other coaches and things like that. Now I'm going into a different phase of my life. My body just decided it was going to stop cooperating this year. I've been doing everything holistically, all through fitness and nutrition and just the health stuff that I know and supplementation. I've kept myself really healthy up until this point. And this year, I went in for my routine blood work, and they're like, "Yeah, your cholesterol is high, your triglycerides are high, and your D3 is in the basement. Your testosterone's low. You have sleep apnea." I had all this stuff thrown at me. I'm like, "But wait, that's not fair. I work out 4 days a week, and I eat healthy 80% of the time, and like I'm doing so much more than most of the people I see." I'm like, and I am the example. So what am I doing wrong? And I had to just take a step back and say, for the first time in my life, I'm going to trust the doctors. I'm going to trust my massage therapist. I'm going to trust my coach, and I'm going to do everything they say. Like, people think we always have it figured out. They think the personal trainer has the answers and like they're guaranteed to get in great shape if they work with us and we know everything we need to know. Like, no, I was blindsided. Like, I knew COVID had reduced my activity in terms of general activity. I was standing in front of a computer all day or sitting in front of a computer all day, where I used to be running around the gyms like a madman. So that in itself was able to bring my genetics to the forefront. So I held it off until I was 33, 34. As soon as I hit 35, it's like, oh, well, you need to address this. Fortunately, as you said, good coaches and being coachable. They know I don't want to jump on statins. They know I don't want to jump on a bunch of prescription medication. I'm doing it all naturally. And in June, I go back for my follow-ups. So with any luck and with the work I've put in and listening and being coachable, we're going to emphasize those points.
Yep.
I'm going to get to the point where I am not going to have to go down the path of a lot of my other family, which is on prescription medication. So I'm doing everything in my power to avoid that. Now, if I need it, I need it. But I'm giving it a fair shake to try and get through it on my own first. And surrounding yourself with that team is important. I also have a small business group, which I put together during COVID, where we're people from life coaches to real estate agents, restaurant owners, barbers and personal trainers, and all kinds of everything in between. And we're not really there to coach each other, but we're there just to provide a higher flying disc. Because, you talk to like general people in your life and they're like, oh, I don't really understand. You own a business. That's cool. But you get around other business owners, they're like, you can do whatever you want. You can make that business thrive. You can grow. You can do this. So like, this is my own little way of transitioning into the whole idea of energies. I've never said this publicly, but I am a huge believer in the universe, the energies around us, God, source, the creator, all of that stuff, and how it can make you a better person. And what I always say to people is, like, everybody wants to get caught up in one specific thing. And they say, this is my religion and that's all there is. And that's fine. Whatever you need to do to feel good and believe in, that's perfectly fine. But what I believe in is dabbling and learning everything that's available to me. So that is my not so subtle transition into the universe, crystal energy. And where do you stand on that? Because I also want to talk about crystals a little bit, because some people might listen to this and say that's hokey, whatever. But I have a lot of stories that will make you think it works. So, Lauren.
Okay. that was a lot to unpack. No, I'm with you on, I am a huge fan of, the universal energy. I feel like we're all speaking the same energetic language. It just has different vernacular, God, spirit, divine, universal energy, all of that. It's all the same thing, just different stories on how we got there. So I've always been, very into manifestation and speaking to the universe, and the universe, has your back and responds in kind. And so, my belief structure is very much everything is energy and everything has a vibration. And that's a fact. That's a scientific fact. So when you bring in, crystals into the mix, crystals have their own vibrational energy, and so I go with the concept of sympathetic resonance, which is what people talk about in terms of sound. One tuning fork that is struck, will start to resonate, and then another tuning fork in the same room that hasn't been struck will begin to resonate, in harmony with or match the vibration of the original tuning fork. Okay, that's the idea of sound therapy, sound healing, and how sound actually works. But the same theory works across all types of vibration. So that's how, for me, crystal healing can be explained. It's this crystal, whether it's, I have a little bit of a rose quartz right here, clear quartz, whatever, it has its own resonance that has certain properties to it. And when you come near it and in contact with it, your body starts to resonate with that crystal. And for some who are still a little bit on the fence that it's hokey, think about when somebody, you're fine, you're in a good mood, somebody comes into the room and is really angry and starts, banging around and screaming, whatnot. You start to resonate with that mood, right? That's sympathetic resonance. So we are in tune with the vibrations all around us, good, bad, or indifferent. And our body just begins to resonate sympathetically with the energy around us, which is why crystal healing works. It's why sound healing works. It's why when someone's in a great mood, you want to be in a great mood too. So it's all energy. And so I know that there's skepticism and whatnot, and that's fine. It's not for everybody, but it all works on the same principle. We're all energy, we're all vibrations, and we all resonate with what's around us.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was a more in-depth view than I've heard before. I really like that. Yeah, I mean, I'll just share a quick story because I think people are on the fence. They need to hear these type of things. In 2012, one of my clients of about 6 years passed away in a fire. She didn't make it out of her house, and she was like a mother figure, like an aunt figure. She was very, very near and dear to me. In the year preceding that, she turned me on to crystals. She turned me on to Jerry and Esther Hicks, the law of attraction, people that are not Rhonda Byrne. Like, they're the other people that do the law of attraction. She gave me all her books, all her CDs, a law of attraction, little reminders, calendar thing where you shuffle it and you pick a card, kind of like a tarot card. And it's your reminder for the day. It could just say the universe has your back. Money brings, good in life if you intend it, things like that. And yeah, she gave me all that stuff on a Tuesday and she was gone on Friday.
Oh.
She called me that morning and said, I'm not coming to train. I have a headache, and I never saw her again. So I could get very emotional talking about this because somebody very near and dear to me, but it was one of those things where if the universe wasn't there for you and the power that it has, she gave me that huge parting gift that I still have every one of those things, never knowing if, how do I explain it? So when was the last time somebody gave you their entire collection of anything and just said, here, I want you to have this without any expectation of getting it back? Like, there's no way she could have known that this was the last couple days of her life, but she believed in me enough to put me in that situation. So I learned everything I could about those things and always tried to make her proud and always thought about her and continued moving my business and moving my life in like a positive and divine gratitude oriented way. And anybody who knows me really well knows that, like, I have one of the biggest hearts you're ever going to meet. Like, yeah, sometimes I keep up a little wall or whatever. But that was the biggest thing that made me realize, like, law of attraction's real. Divine intervention is totally real. And then, like, the crystals and things like that, she gave me a little pack of 5 different crystals, and you could go into the whole what each color represents, but it was a jet, which is like deflect negativity. It was a carnelian and amethyst, which are kind of amplifiers, creativity, things along those lines. It was a green jade, and it was a green aventurine for luck, prosperity, and wealth. To say my business accelerated at a pace which would be unexplainable was what happened. Like, within a year of her passing away, like, I tripled the amount of clients, I tripled my income, I tripled my business. And it just got me closer and closer to her, even though she was no longer here physically. And that's just the biggest example I have. And then 1 year ago, my one friend who lives in Los Angeles came home. And I'm not trying to make this all about me. I'm just trying to give people contrast. he gave me a giant aventurine crystal wrapped in copper. And because I really resonate with green crystals, like I'm huge on green crystals.
You have a
And I
big heart. That's your heart chakra.
That's right. That's right. And I wore that crystal all the time. I actually had it on this morning. I just took it off, but I wear that all the time. And since he's given it to me from like a really genuine place, like he just knew, like guys are not common in the crystal world and in the yoga world and things like that. So when you find other guys that are kind of down that path, it's special.
Mm-hmm.
And like I just have too many reasons not to believe it. So do you have any stories like that you can share?
About crystals, not necessarily, but I do want to go back to your client and the fact that she gave you that gift just a few days before she died. And I agree with you that she had no idea, but I feel like the universe knows and knew that she was going to be more of an influence for you on the other side. And so she gave you all of her, she probably didn't know why she was giving it to you. And sometimes you just called to, gift something to somebody or, something like that. And I think that's the universe's way of setting things straight and setting things up for success. And I'm sure that she is, I know we're getting way into the spiritual world, but I feel like she is probably on the other side, making sure that, your business is successful and that you do move forward with this energetic work. I think, like you said, finding someone else that is into this stuff, it's, when you match energy with somebody and they're into this stuff, it's so great. I had a client come for a chakra healing just recently. And, I do believe that, when I come into ownership of a crystal that I'm not sure why I have it, I know that it's probably meant for some reason. And I had this raw bloodstone that I can't remember how I came across it. It was just sitting in my tray. I have a huge tray of crystals right behind me. It was just sitting there and I wasn't really working with it. And it was just, in the tray. And she comes in and sits down and we start talking about things before we get into the healing. And she goes, I'm really, really, really drawn to bloodstone for some reason. And I'm like, oh, okay, I have it for you. And this is why. I had no idea, but it found its way to her through me. And that was how it was meant to be. And she was so grateful. She said, I don't know why I want bloodstone, but I do. And she had just come out of the hospital from having a terrible migraine. And bloodstone is actually a pain healer. So I was like, I know why you want it. You need to heal that migraine that you just had. So that's one story I have about the crystal healing. But I just know for me, I work with a lot of crystals in meditation. I work, so I'll tell the story. So I was meditating, and so my father also passed away. He passed away 9 years ago. So I've lost both my parents, and I've been dealing with that. And in meditation, I will be holding lepidolite, which is a purple stone, and it is for calm, and it is also for intuition. And holding the lepidolite, my parents both came to me in meditation. My mom comes to me on my left side, my dad comes to me on my right. And every time I hold that lepidolite, they come. And so it's kind of like their calling card. And they come and they hold me and they tell me that everything is okay. And it's a very like calming experience that I have. So yeah, so there's a lot to the crystal energy, and I do believe that the crystals will tell you when they're done with you. I've had crystals break, and that means that they've done their work, they've protected you, and then you have to like bury them, put them back into the earth. And I definitely, when I'm called to it, will give somebody a crystal when they need it. And I've found a lot of people really get a lot out of it, for sure.
Wow. I mean, I knew this was going to be a special conversation, but I think this is the beginnings of a great friendship between the two of us, because, it's always nice having other people that can kind of, resonate with the type of stuff that you're feeling and experiencing. Because a lot of people deflect things that they don't understand immediately. I have always told people that are relatively interested in crystals, and I'm not the expert, you're the expert on this. But I told people, what is the color that is your favorite color, and what is the color that like resonates most with you? So my favorite color is orange, And then my second favorite color is probably green. And then I really like black. And as you see, my logo is red, white, and black.
Mm-hmm.
Pick one or two of your favorite colors. Google crystals that are the color green, if green is your favorite color, or yellow, whatever it is. And then look at what their intended use is and what they're supposed to do for you. And then you're going to think about subconsciously when you're going through life, if you have a favorite yellow jacket or a favorite green jacket, and certain things happen when you're wearing that jacket. It doesn't always have to be crystals. Sometimes the energy comes from the color itself.
Mm-hmm.
Flowers, animals, the sky. Start thinking about that stuff, and that is how you tiptoe into it without throwing yourself in there and being uncertain of what's going to happen. Just tiptoe into it. Just try it out. And Lauren and I would be glad to talk to anybody about this stuff.
Yes. I like to use, obviously I like to use the chakras. That's my little chakra wall hanging. So when somebody is asking about crystals, I try to figure out what's going on in their lives. And so, if they need some grounding, then it's a red or a black stone. If they need some creativity, then it's orange. So I go up, up the line of chakras to see, what's resonating for them and where do they need a little bit of support. And then, I give them the appropriate, chakra related crystals to work on that. And I totally agree with you. Color therapy is a thing, and crystals are phenomenal for that. But also, like, I had a Reiki master tell me one time that I need to wear more red because I needed more grounding. And so I think it's a very, again, it's all energetic. It's all energy. We are all energy. We all vibrate. And, however we choose to heal ourselves, whether it's with food, exercise, crystals, colors, sound, it's all just energy in, energy out. That's all it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I was going to bring into a point because I wanted to ask you about, besides exercise and diet, what do you find is important for your health? And obviously we can talk a little bit about the yoga and the meditation, things like that, which we already have.
Right.
But here's something I tell my clients. And there's a lot of trainers that specialize only in weight loss or only in muscle building. I try and be more of like a coach, somebody that addresses the entire sphere. So I always tell my clients there's 5 important things in your life that need to be addressed at all times: activity, nutrition, water consumption, stress, and sleep. If any one of those 5 things is destroyed or out of whack, it is impossible that you will live a vibrant and healthy life and well life. So, what do you think the most important things are for sleep and stress? Because the obvious thing is drink enough water, move,
right,
and feed your body whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible. We just covered those 3, get them out of the way.
Right.
Sleep and stress, what you do and how can people really moderate themselves and fix themselves from a sleep and stress standpoint, given what you do?
So I'll go beyond your 5, but what I'm going to talk about is going to affect the sleep and stress. But my philosophy from a holistic perspective is that your daily lifestyle, what's going on in your world, has more of an effect. We call it primary food, has more of an effect on your overall wellness than what's on your plate, which we call secondary food. So that is your career, your finances, your education, your home life, your social life, your relationships, all those things. I tell people all the time, you can eat all the kale in the world and down all the smoothies you can, but if you're in a toxic relationship, if your job sucks, if you're having a fight with your best friend and you're losing that relationship in your life, you're not going to feel good. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I advise my clients, well, and this is what we do in our coaching work is we look at all those aspects. I hardly ever talk about food because that falls in line once you get everything else in balance. And so that's what's going to help with the stress and the sleep is, and sometimes it's hard because you have to take a good, honest look at your life. And some people who are in bad relationships or in bad jobs, they don't want to look at that. They'd rather just eat all the kale and down all the smoothies. But at the end of the day, again, we're all energy, we're all vibrating. If you are out of balance, you're going to be in a low vibrational state. And that's what's going to lead to stress, inflammation, and chronic disease. And you're not going to feel good. So, I agree with you, those 5 points, but I take the stress and sleep further. And it's actually, we do a circle of life tool. So there's actually 12 aspects of primary food that we look at. And spirituality is one of them, and physical activity is another one. So it's a whole sphere of all the things that are not, the food that you eat that have a profound impact on your wellness. So for your question for sleep and stress, you got to take a real hard look at your life and figure out where you're out of balance, and then, get that team together to help you get those areas in balance so that you can eat right, move, and feel vibrant. It's a process. We are high maintenance individuals. Humans are high maintenance. We have a lot of work to do to keep ourselves well. That's just a fact. But if you look at it from a holistic perspective, then it gets a little bit easier to do that work and feel really good about your life.
Yeah, and protecting your energy.
Yes.
I think people forget something. And I love my family and things like that, but like it's one of those things where, listen, you get to choose your friends. Yeah. And you get to choose those which you surround yourself with. And there's a word called boundaries.
That's what I was thinking.
If there's people in your life that aren't giving you what you need, doesn't mean you never talk to them again, doesn't mean you eradicate them from your life. But you need boundaries. Like if you go visit somebody and you leave and you're drained for 3 days because of it, they're not right for your energy. Just like what Lauren said earlier about walking into a room and somebody's extremely angry. We all have bad days. If you have a friend that you've been friends with for 10 years, everybody's going to have a moment. But the people I'm talking about, the people that every day it's like, my life is so terrible. I can't get out of my own way. You got to put up a boundary to say, hey, like, this is more important than what's in front of me right now. And you don't have to be a jerk about it, but sometimes taking care of yourself is the most important thing, because then everything else falls in line. What we just said about, my 5 things and you expanding upon the sleep and the stress, you can kind of look at it from a weird perspective. So it's like, you look at like a clogged artery. Like, why is that artery clogged? Because there's bad things in there preventing the blood flow. So you can look at those 5 spheres of influence, or 12 in your case, and you can look at like the sun coming through. If the sun cannot get through to all of the centers of those things for you to optimize all 5 of those things, nothing's ever going to go directly the way you want it to. I tell clients all the time, there's things like stress, like cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all those things that run through our body. If you're stressed out and you're sleeping like crap, I could put you on whatever workout program I want. You're not going to lose fat. You're not going to optimize your cells. You're going to struggle. So you got to get this right and everything around you first before you can even start moving in the right direction.
And I love that. And I love that, you brought in the boundaries. I think it's important because people get scared to put those boundaries up. And it's okay to say to your friend, you know what, I really just don't have the emotional capacity to have you vent at me right now. It's okay to take care of yourself. I just put out a webinar about self-care because I am a huge fan of self-care. And I think people put that to the side because we have this martyrdom culture of giving to everybody else, which means violating your own boundaries and giving away your own energy. And we forget to protect ourselves and restore our energy. And I think that self-care is a huge part of that, and making sure that we can live a vibrant life. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's just like they say on the airplane, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can assist others. No oxygen for you, no oxygen for them. So yeah, it's so important to look at that and look at your relationships and make sure that you're setting boundaries and taking care of yourself and keeping your energy high.
Yeah, It's all so good. And flood yourself with good information and good people.
Yes.
It's huge. Well, we covered a lot of ground, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I also want to give you an opportunity to talk about things that you have coming up, ways people can find you, and anything that you want people to know about you. Obviously, I want you, all of my friends and fans that are watching this after the fact, so this will be out for you guys tomorrow on Friday, May 7th. I want you to follow Lauren and see ways where you guys can connect. She has my full endorsement, and I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship for us. She has a great boyfriend that I'm a good friends with as well. Just really good things going down the pipeline here. So Lauren, take it away. Where can they find you? What you got? What do you have going on?
Okay, thank you, Michael. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Yozenity with Lauren. It's Yozenity with Lauren. My website is yozenity.com. And on there, you can find, I actually have, like I mentioned, the self-care webinar is out right now. I have a program coming out next week that I'm so excited about. It's actually a nutritional reset program. So it's the anti-cleanse. I don't do cleanses anymore. I do nutritional resets. And so I've put together this amazing program to help, when you fall off the wagon a little bit with your eating, and you just want to reset your palate, reset your body, and get back on track. It's a 3-day program that I do 3 or 4 times a year, and I love it. And these are tried and true recipes that I've been eating for years, and a lot of tips and tricks and a lot of information about detoxifying foods. And it's no deprivation, progress, not perfection. And so that's coming out next week. And also, I co-host a retreat. So we had a retreat with my boyfriend, Justin, and our friend Adam in March in Philadelphia. It's called the 4 Pillars Retreat. So we focus on the 4 pillars of life, which is business, wellness, spirituality, and relationships. And we are hosting another retreat in October in New Orleans that we are so excited about. There's going to be yoga outside, poolside yoga, by the way, and amazing speakers and a lot of information. And we had people review the retreat in March, and they said it was a life-changing experience. And so we're doing it again. So that information is also available on my website, and anyone can reach out to me for more information. We still have some spots available, but they're going fast. So that's all that's coming out for me. And also I'm available for holistic wellness coaching always, and available to teach yoga classes. I can do private lessons. I can do group, I can do it over Zoom, whatever is needed. So that's how you can find me. If you want to email me, lauren@yozenity.com. And I think that's all. I think that's all I've got.
A lot of awesome stuff coming down the pipe for you. And if for people on Lauren's page that are checking this out, I'm Mike, www.formalfitnesstraining.com. I have a book available on Amazon called Perpetual Improvement, and I have classes and personal training and all kinds of other things that are kind of fun. So if you want to check me out as well, there it is. Pretty simple. But yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation here, and I look forward to having another one very shortly. And thanks for checking out Coffee with a Trainer with Mike Hartman from Formal Fitness Training and Lauren Blackford from Yozenity. Catch you next time.